So we're ready to go then?
Yeah, we're not quite set.
We've only got a couple more minutes.
Okay.
So bring the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Armstrong.
Here.
Fallon. Here. Farrell.
Here.
Happy.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Wood. Here. Mayor Cramlett.
Here. Okay, additions or amendments to the agenda?
We have that.
So adoption of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the consent agenda items A and B and hold item C for discussion.
We'll go with that. Okay, so consent agenda would be the approval of ratification of bills in the amount of,
We get a second on the consent, on the motion.
oh, okay. Can I get a second on that?
A second.
Okay, any discussion on
There's no discussion on consent agenda. Right, you forgot.
it?
It's all right.
Keep moving ahead here. Okay, so it'll be a ratification of the bills in the amount of $188,640.67. And approved noise waiver for the wedding.
No, approve the minutes. The first one, A and B.
I thought you went busy, okay, you want to go over. Okay, approved the February 28th, 2022 city council minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's, so we want to go over, see that.
On measure C, the waiver for the noise waiver for the Marine Park. I have a problem with it in that the park closes at 10 and there's no waiver from them that from the port waiving their closing time. So it's kind of like we're moving ahead of the port. They should send a waiver with this request for waiver, that they waive their closing time first, and then we can do that.
There is. I'd like to add, Janetta, is her name Janetta?
Yeah.
Has been forwarding all those people, to me. They do let them stay. I don't know how late, but they do let them stay past 10 for weddings. And so she has been forwarding them to request a noise waiver from us because she knows our noise waiver, our noise ordinance is at end.
Okay. But shouldn't they send a waiver that they've given a waiver on their closing time so that we can see that?
I don't know what their policies are, and we don't require that of the port, so.
I think we should require, because otherwise we don't know. I don't see it here.
I guess I don't see how that's necessarily pertinent. I feel like he has to weigh in on the waiver for the noise ordinance. Whether, if they don't allow them to stay past 10 p.m., that's the way I read it.
I just think it's a matter of not dotting the i's and crossing the t's. You know, if we get a request to waive the noise waiver, then they should have an affirmation that they have waived their closing time.
So do you wanna, folks wanna wait on this? I mean, they've got time, it's the summer, right?
Yeah,
Do we want them to touch base with the port and get something from them, or do you just wanna go ahead with this?
Does the port want to weigh in since they're on Zoom?
Oh, is there, Jeremiah's there.
So Jeremiah or Olga, the question is, do you have a noise or a closing time waiver for weddings? And if so, is it something that could accompany the request for a noise variance?
Our permit allows whatever time is specified on the permit. So for weddings, if we allow weddings to be there until 11 or midnight or 2 a.m., whether they're cleaning up after hours or continuing the celebration, the permit would indicate that.
We don't, although we don't see that permit, all we see is a request for a noise waiver.
Right, and so we inform the permit holder that in addition to our permit, there is also a noise regulation at the city or by the city, and that the city can waive that noise regulation. So if the permit holder wanted to continue the celebration, which was going to be noisy, they would also have to request a permit from the city or waiver from the city.
So by them calling us, then we know that they already have the waiver from the port. Because you don't tell them that until they get their waiver. For the
Yeah,
closing.
they cannot be in the park past regular closing time without our permit, whether or not they hold a noise waiver.
Right, okay. Does that help you, Butch?
No, I would like to see something. Yeah, whether they send a copy of their permit or something I can see that says that they have that permit to be there.
But we can't tell the port what to do.
So we could say that grant them the noise, the waiver of the noise ordinance, but the port can still say you gotta be on by 10.
Yeah, and we can't, just because if we don't grant them the noise waiver, they could still be down there in the port.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So they're not dependent on each other. I know.
If the port says no, there won't be anybody there to make noise, so it won't really matter, right?
So if they give them a waiver and say, if you're gonna be late, you gotta call us for the noise. That's our jurisdiction, not the port. We can't enforce port closing hours.
I'm just afraid that we grant them the approval to, a
Yeah.
variance to the noise ordinance, but they don't have approval from the port.
Yeah, it's kind of like you wanted to ask Dad, his mom said no.
But I think even if we were to grant them this, but they don't want to stay past 10 o'clock, they just would grant them that, it wouldn't matter whether we give them that point. It's a moot point.
I just, think that we should have some verification that this thing has been granted.
But it's not required.
Huh?
It's not required.
Well, maybe it should be required.
Well, it's required for them to come to us and get this.
I know that.
So basically that means they have asked Mom and Dad. And they both agree that it's okay to, now they agree from agreement from the neighbors.
Mom said it's okay, now go ask Dad for the noise.
Yeah, so what we said, yeah.
Okay.
The board has agreed to it, why it's coming to us. They've already made that agreement, you can stay there longer, now all they're asking is they get a waiver from us. So if we're getting this, the board has already said, you're welcome to stay till beyond then.
I would not see any need to push it out. I know weddings are stressful enough as it is. And they're trying to get all their ducks in a row and it takes months and months and months of planning. So I wouldn't want to be part of the roadblock.
And as a business, you can't
make them tell you or even get a permission on their closing times. That's their prerogative. It's their business, whether it's the port or a business in town. They don't have to come to the city to get permission to change their hours.
But they have to get permission to go beyond 10 and making noise.
You have to be careful with noise any time of the day, my experience. So this, a noise ordinance covers all hours of the day. But I don't think we're, the people that live by the park, who would be mostly effective, have never came to a city council meeting or written a letter saying that they've ever been bothered by any of the events that's happened in the park. So I would think if them people had a problem, then maybe we should, but I haven't heard any of them people having a problem, so I don't see a problem with it. And I don't think it's right to think that a business should get permission about changing their operating, whether it's the hours of the park or not.
Well, I'm not trying to change their operating hours.
You just want verification.
I just want verification that
Yeah,
they gave them a waiver for it.
and that could be a lot to ask of a business.
Need a motion?
Yep.
I motion to approve the noise waiver for the wedding reception at Marine Park. And we have a date on this, for August 13th, 2022.
I'll second it.
A second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the noise waiver section of Marine Park. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
That passes. Oh, public hearing.
We have none.
Appointments to committee, and we have Karen Syke,
Aaron, site for the budget.
and I work with that Karen on the budget team before she does a great job, so I would recommend council to put Karen on the budget committee. Are we good with that?
Yep.
Okay. That's what we'll do, Karen's on. Okay, appearance of interested citizen.
I think we all have interested citizens here, but they're here for.
For something else? Okay, so they're here for something else. We'll move on to our action item.
That's
Okay,
the
so
only,
actually, we got reports and presentations,
that's correct.
something that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, city committees
We have none.
and River County Reads proclamation.
We have Bonnie with us and her husband with us to talk to us about the River County Library.
Okay. This proclamation,
Yes, we have copies.
and you have copies. I would like to read it to you. Is someplace you want me to
You're
put
just
myself? I'm fine right here. Okay, great. Thank you very much for giving me the time to come and tell you about our program this year. I'm very, very excited about this book. And I think when you understand what it's about and how it's presented, I hope that you will share that interest. And just to hold it up before I actually read this proclamation, this is the book. It's entitled A Fire Story. We stretched the definition of the Northwest to include Northern California, which is where this author lives. And we decided they would be happy to be included with the Northwest as well. So what happened to Brian Pease, who is a graphic artist, is that one day his house burned down, one of those awful fires, wildfire, and his whole neighborhood. And how he chose to talk about it was to draw and write about it. And it started off as a small thing on the blog. He has done other cartoon type books as well, graphic memoirs. But it was got so much attention that it turned out to be a book. And the format, again, I know I haven't read it this quickly, but just to give you an idea of what you're looking at, you think, oh, it looks like a comic. And in some ways, it uses those skills. But then at other points, there is there's a person who's telling his story, what happened to him, or And so with that short background, let me just read this proclamation. Proclamation of support for the 2022 Hood River County Reads Program, A Fire Story by Brian Fees. Whereas the Friends of the Hood River County Library have organized the Hood River County Reads Program to support reading books and discussing ideas among all members of our community. And whereas Hood River County Reads has been endorsed, supported, and financially assisted by local schools, businesses, and organizations, as well as the Hood River County Library Foundation, Star Seed Foundation, Hood River County Education Foundation, Friends of the Hood River County Library, Hood River Cultural Trust, Gorge Community Foundation, and also generous individuals. And whereas the city of Cascade Locks celebrates the history and richness of our Northwestern lands and people, and whereas the selection of A Fire Story by author Brian Fees gives Cascade Locks a dramatic opportunity to engage a personal story of wildfire disaster, grief and loss, renewal, and the power of community to heal, all set in our magnificent Pacific Northwest West. And whereas the author Brian Fees will be visiting the Hood River community, and whereas over 600 copies of A Fire Story will be distributed so that it can be read and discussed at multiple venues throughout the county. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Cascade Locks establishes March 26th to May 1st as Hood River County Reads. So March 26th is the kickoff day, and that's when there will be 3 copies. I have a few copies with me. They're very heavy, actually. And I hope that you'll pass them around and share them. And I have some of the brochures as well. March 26th is when you can go to your library here in Cascade Locks and get a free copy. And the big weekend that Brian Fees will actually be here is April 29, 30, and May 1st.
Thank you very much.
So
Should we do this alphabetically?
alphabetically,
No, to pass the books out.
oh, I don't know.
Reverse alphabetical
It's
order
tricky.
beginning with C.
I think so.
I think your library is overfilled, Mr. Zimmerman.
Never.
It's a different type of reading experience. And I think you'll really enjoy it. If you haven't done it before.
No, so tell them if you want it. I go to the library.
Okay. They're awesome heavy, and I hope I have.
It's an interesting
yours as
format.
Well, yes,
It's a
it-
graphic novel.
you will be surprised at how it grabs you. Here we go. Oh, I'm one short. I'm sorry.
That's all
You
right,
have
we
to
can share, we can share.
I got a question. So
Yes.
is this, kids are reading this or is this passed out to adults?
Yes, it's middle school and high school. The high school teachers have gone bananas over it. They're so excited. We're going to buy 100 extra books. And Brian will spend the whole day in middle school and high school working with kids. And there's been a poster contest later this week. I get to look at 49 posters that kids have done for the poster contest for the book. So there's been a lot of excitement for the book.
Yeah, I just flipped to page 16. Did you read page 16? So I would be like, I think it's appropriate for high school, you know, and older.
Did you find that one word when he said?
Well, of course you're gonna say that if your house is burned down, but he's like,
Of course, you know, that's the context. And
yeah. So,
we talked about that.
yeah, I'm coming with it. Yeah.
One dead word, you see that your house.
I'm like, I open it to that. I'm like, what's the person look like? But I was like, I'd probably say the same thing.
The only-
Yeah. All right. That's cool.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
We need a motion to adopt this proclamation.
No, they're mayoral proclamation.
Okay.
You just do it if you want.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you.
Okay. see some of you then.
Thank you so much. And this is apropos for us because we almost were in this kind of disaster.
We know, that's
Right.
what I was thinking, that would, yes, you will really be relating to this on a very personal level.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting or go home.
Put our feet up.
It's raining, let's stay.
It's always.
We have a couple of rubber ducks here. I think about my height.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll move on to city administrator, recruitment discussion.
LCOG. LCOG, LCOG.
I cannot keep up with any of that.
We have
Different names.
Brenda Wilson, who is the executive director of the Lane Council of Governments, and Ross Schultz, who is the recruitment, what do you call yourself?
Yeah, a contract recruiter.
Contract recruiter that's going to be running the recruitment that built the IGA that we signed and approved at the last week. We're here to talk to you about the process.
Very good. You have this,
My name's Ross Schultz. Before we get started, though, I would like to introduce Brenda Wilson, who is the executive director of Lane Council of Governments. And that.
Oh, I'll just say a couple of things. So thank you. As Ross said, my name is Brenda Wilson. I'm the executive director of the Lane Council of Governments. So there are over 700 council of governments in the United States, and LCOG, which is what we call ourselves, is the oldest one in the nation. So I'm very proud about that. We're the second largest in the state. The largest council of government in the state is Metro, and we are nothing like them. So I'm really excited to be here tonight, especially about this book. I'm an avid reader. I try to read 100 books every year. It's a challenge that I have. I'm going to pick that one up. As you know, in Lane County, we had the Holiday Farm Fire. It burned 175,000 acres, and we lost entire towns. And so I'm looking very forward to reading that. And we're still reeling from the aftermath of that. But Council of Governments, we do everything from, we run a television station, a transit agency, a telephone company, and we run an HR firm. And so LGPS is a statewide HR firm that provides recruitment, evaluation, comp and class studies, collective bargaining, and HR technical advice. It was started in 1971 by the League of Oregon Cities and the Association of Counties. And we used it, and so did my members. I have 35 public agency members. And the League of Oregon Cities decided in 2019 that they would close what was then known as LGPI, Local Government Personnel Institute. And I knew that my members used it and other cities across the state used it. And so I had a really hard time saying no. And so we took it on in December of 2019. And so we offer recruitment services, and we've recruited for cities across the state because I believe we have great leaders all across the state. It makes the entire state of Oregon great, even though I'm from Lane County. So that's why we're here. We're really thrilled to help you replace Gordon, who I have known for 20 years. And I know it's hard to replace a good community leader, and we will try to make this process as easy and as pleasant for you as possible. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ross, who does the recruiting.
Thank you, Brenda. A little bit about my background. I've been in municipal management or working for government basically for 40 plus years. 18 of those years were spent out of Port Portland. Spent 8 years as city manager for the city of Sherwood. In the last 12 years, I've been an interim city manager for thriving metropolises like Palomino, is big one, Dayton, Newburgh, Independence, and even Hood River up the road. So I've also done about 10 recruitments, I think, in the last 4 years. I worked some time for Kaufman, and then talked to Brenda, and we worked out an arrangement so I could recruit for Lane Council of Governments. So that's how I got here. Any questions of Brenda or I before we get going on this evening's conversation?
I have a question.
Sure.
On the council hiring schedule,
on June 13th for a new city manager. We have a city administrator that we're replacing, and aren't they two different things?
I'm sorry, that that's my fault.
Okay, just so we're on the same page.
I recruited for managers and
Okay.
administrators, so that's my bad.
No, that's okay.
It really just depends on the city charter, what they're called. It's the exact same position.
So, speaking of the calendar, that's kind of where I'd like to go ahead and get started. If I could just walk through the 5, 6 dates that are on there. March 14th is obviously today. Prior to today, I talked to Gordon and Elcog, and Gordon and I kind of had a kickoff meeting, and we talked about doing some documentation. I think some of that's in your packet, and we'll get to that a little later. And we worked out this calendar of kind of milestones, if you will. There's quite a bit of work going on behind these 6 or 7 dates. But it shows us opening the job on March 28th to the public. We'll go ahead and improve on that date unless there's some complaint from council. But I think between Gordon and I and the input you have this evening, we can go ahead and get that job open maybe in the next week or so.
Okay.
But the 28th at least. May 2nd shows first round review by recruiters. So the job will be open until May 2nd. However, we are saying it's open until filled. But you need some kind of deadline for people to get applications in, otherwise you just don't get there. So May 2nd is what we call our first round review. That will be done mainly by myself. I'll take the applications we have. I'll call the applicants on a phone call if I think they're trying to put this politely, but if they have an opportunity to be here, sometimes you get applications from people that just don't have the minimum qualifications. But if they've got the minimum qualifications, I'll go ahead and get them on the phone, so I make sure I have kind of that first round review done. That also helps with veterans and making sure that veterans get an opportunity in that first round. And you will get to take a look at all of the applicants on May 9th, which I think is a regular council meeting for you. And I will bring all the applications and my comments, and I'll also have a ranking according to me. You will get to rank them the way you see fit. You'll have my input on that. And at the 9th meeting, we'll also discuss the interview process, how you want to set up panels. If you want panels, you want the applicants on site to be interviewed, you want to do them remotely, you want 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and of course, a lot of that will depend on how many applicants you have. If you have 1 or 2 qualified applicants, that may be a whole different story than having 5 or 6 qualified applicants. So on the 9th, we'll answer those kind of things and get kind of a interview process calendar set up, kind of who's going to do it, when you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, those things. So you might be kind of giving that some thought between now and that time. Gordon and I have talked, and the 3rd week in May looks like a fair week for on-site interviews. Once again, depending on what happens on the 9th, that may or may not be a good time, but we'll get there on the 9th. And then June 13th, we've got to have some place to set a goal. So, excuse me, our goal is to have a council approval of a new city administrative contract. I would like to hit that goal. Everything I will do will work towards that goal, but may or may not get there. So the 3rd week in May and June 13th are iffy dates, but that's what we like. So I guess with that, any questions on the calendar?
I have a
Yes.
question. Is there an opportunity after the job opens to kind of get updates and say, okay, we have 3 applicants or
Sure.
4, or just kind of get timely updates and.
My experience in that recruiting I've done over even 40 years, you get about 30% of the applications come in the first week or so. You get about 30% over the length of time up until about the last 2 or 3 days. Then
Right.
you get another 30%, so kind of 30, 30, 30 is the way that works out. But I'll be in contact with Gordon. He'll know when we get applicants, and I'll give him at least a weekly update, sometimes more depending on what's going on.
So, can I ask a question here?
Sure.
So, just to clarify then, so you're saying 30, 30, 30, so the job opens on May 28th, you're saying within that first week, we're gonna see 30%, and then it closes on May 2nd is kind of the soft close date? that we have?
Yeah, that soft close is a good way to put it. We're just saying the first review. And what traditionally happens is May 2nd comes around, or that first review date cuts off. And then you'll get, somebody will call and say, hey, I'm still interested in that job. Can I still apply? And if you leave it open until filled, you say, sure. Or if you've got a lot of qualified candidates, I'll call Gordon, we'll talk to the mayor or whoever and say, you want to accept this application in this round, if you want to wait. So it's just some flexibility. Leave it open until filled.
And is it possible that prior to the presentation on the city council meeting on the 9th, we do a review of the candidates that
Actually, for that 9th review, you'll have a packet that will have all of the applications, my notes and kind of ranking, and then on the 9th, we'll discuss them, and you'll have a chance.
we'll look at that prior to the 9th?
Yes,
Another question.
sure.
So the salary range, do you find that, is that competitive? Where do we land in that with other smaller cities? Are those figures good?
I think the salary range is reasonable and probably expected for your size of city and your complexity of city. You don't have a police force, you do have water, sewer, you have electric company, which may or could add an extra requirement for salary in there. But with what I've looked around at and what I know of the managers and what they're making, you're not far off.
We're in the ballpark.
You're in the ballpark.
All right.
It's just, at that point, it's just who you're competing with. And, you know, unfortunately, you're probably competing with positions in Sandy, positions, because you're not that far where people could commute and that sort of stuff. So looking for qualified people that might make a good city administrator here, they might accept a public works position in Sandy that makes close to the same.
Right,
So your
right.
competition is a little funkier because you're so close to the metro area.
Right. That's my concern.
Yeah. And I guess that's a conversation I wanted to have a little later. But, you know, if you find if an applicant applies and looks really qualified, but tells me in the first round, you know what, I applied for this job because I really like it, but I can't do this salary. You guys may have to get together and decide what you want to do with that. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I mean, I also think about, you know, we're not just trying to hire a city administrator to fill the needs of the city that we have now.
Yes.
We need to have a city manager, a city administrator who can fill the needs of the city in 5 years.
Yeah,
So they can grow into that position. So, you know, that, I think, is that something you're also taking into consideration is during your,
Once again, you're kind of getting my life according to Ross. So forgive me if it doesn't hold true here, but I think your applicants here are going to be people that are in 2 categories. One, they're on the way up, and this would be their first administrator's position, or they're on their way, not necessarily down, but they're on their way to retirement, and this is going to be their last job. You likely won't get a lot of applicants that are that, you know, 5 to 10 years experience in moving up. They're going to Silverton, Canby, and places like that. And, you know, places that are 20, 30, 40,000 people instead of Cascade lock. So
Right.
I think that's probably the expectation that we'll have to deal with, or the reality. But that's just according to me, I could be wrong.
That's helpful to understand. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how people move through, as their career develops, so that is helpful to understand.
Yeah, you as a council, and we were going to talk about this a little later, kind of what your expectations are about, somebody out of college with an MBA or political science after something like that, that's got, maybe they've been a planner in the planning department someplace, or they worked through some other municipal activities. They might be a really good candidate for you because they're on their way up, they're looking to make a name for themselves, they're invested, they want to be invested someplace, but they probably won't get them for more than 3 to 4 years, because as soon as they get good here, they'll move on to the next place in their career. So anyway.
That brings it, and this, the advertisement, for the newspaper.
Yeah, that's the ad for the newspaper, yes.
It's, the city also requires a minimum of 5 years of prior experience as a city administrator / manager or an assistant city administrator. If we changed it to a little bit more, so like at least 5 years of upper level local government management experience is required. It grades the area a little bit, but it might open it up to somebody who just graduated with an MBA and they have lots of experience.
I think this is
I
up to
feel about
council,
that.
this is council's
Right.
call, and I think you'll open it up to more applicants. It's just what you will be looking for as council. Let me go on with my story. I think we're gonna be back here.
Okay.
And maybe we can kind of think through that, but. Excuse me. So at this time, I've got a job description. I didn't bring it, it's not part of the packet, but this is a great opportunity if there's something that you want in the job description, to get that in there. So I guess board management, you could send them all a copy of the job description and take a look at that. If there's any comments, the flyer is in your packet. And I guess this would be a great time to go through that flyer. If there's something in the flyer had a chance to look at. And one of the other things we should talk about as we get ready to open this job, or even as we open it, it always comes to a point that there's something that may or may not be in the flyer or other documentation that has to be confronted. Do you guys want to appoint a hiring committee to go through things like that? Or do you want to deal with them all as a full council? Or if I have a little conversation on that, what you're doing on that.
I don't think you're gonna get a lot of applicants. I think you're gonna be able to, as a council, review them all. The council as a whole. Because you're all different people, and you're all looking for different things. It's sometimes if you do a two-step where you have a council executive committee or something, you may miss something. So I would encourage you all to do it.
Well, that would be the second round, would be all council. I'm talking about anything that might come up. If you get to something in the flyer and you really want to change, just like you were saying, the wording from,
Right.
one,
Just
just a tweak. I guess is what I'd like to suggest is you have a small committee put together where, or you could run that through a small committee without having a full council meeting. Yeah, so you can just make any adjustments that need to be made. Don't have to come to council. Generally, most cities that work with the mayor and the city manager and one other councilor get together. If there's something like that comes up. It could happen that way. appreciate it if you get a committee like that. It makes the process run a little smooth. That's up to you. So let's go through the flyer right now. Is there anything in the flyer that you see that you'd like to talk about or you would like more of?
Is it necessary to include anything in the flyer about our current infrastructure projects that we're working on? Or like loans or?
Generally, when the city manager's looking for a new job, city administrator looking for a new job, what the loans are out there, projects out there. If they're looking for a place, I want to be someplace particular for some particular reason, and they're looking at salary. The tough piece is they're looking for red flags not to come. You know, like if I just did a wastewater project, I don't really want to do a wastewater project again, but you know, we follow the directions of the council, so it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
Well, I was reading through a different example, and it was for the city of Hood River, but how there was a little paragraph on their infrastructure improvement projects and kind of what projects they were currently working on. So I enjoyed reading that.
Yeah.
As a job description or a flyer. Rather than a job
Sure.
description. But
If you have some particular projects, and it's, once again, up to you to include that, this is your flyer going out.
I think that's a good idea. I agree that, for somebody to know what they're coming to, and we have a couple of, got the power thing and
right.
the sewer thing, I think it would be very appropriate to let them know what they're taking off with right off the bat. Let them make a decision, do they want to take that on? You've got a couple of
Right.
big things coming down the pike. The sewer and the power.
So
I'd be afraid of scaring somebody off.
Or maybe they would
Or they'll
actually
like-
want more money out the gate because they see, wow, what's this electric company and a water company? Wow, I
Well,
need
if
more
you're
money.
scaring somebody off, in my opinion, then that's good. That's a good thing, because I don't want them here if they're not prepared to take on these kind of projects. I mean,
I feel like our, the advertisement up piece purpose is to try to get people to apply, and then we can get to know them through the interview process and
that's pretty well.
yeah, have a discussion about those things.
Well,
But I wouldn't want to. I guess I feel like it'd be better to get as many applicants as we possibly can. That's my only fear, is that it might tour somebody that maybe doesn't want to get involved in the project. Maybe they just haven't given us a chance yet.
Well, the other thing is, if they're gonna do a kind of background check, they're gonna look at our website, they're gonna look at our budgets, they're gonna look at, they're gonna do some research on their own.
And they will do that. Yeah.
but it could be a positive. They could read it and go, I know all about plumbing, or I know all of it. It just might give a clearer picture of.
Yeah, you're gonna be dropping into the midst of an $8.1 billion wastewater project and $3 or $4 million project. So,
Right,
come on.
bring it on. If they want to do
But your
it.
point's well taken.
Yeah.
That you don't want
Scare them off before you.
to. You don't want
to.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
Want to fall in love with the place and want the job before we string it.
Sure.
well, if I may, most of these flyers do have something about the upcoming projects.
Okay.
And I think it makes you look more professional and say,
Right.
you've got these projects organized.
And it's transparency and,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's, once again, up to you, but, if you want to do this, I'd see the ideal candidate profile being completed, and then, projects to look forward to, or something
Right.
handy on there, and then list your top 2 or 3. That you can give to me, and we'll describe them, and then include them. Is that council pleasure?
It's a great
We can word it in a way so that it doesn't sound like, and when you get here, here's everything that's gonna be piled on your plate.
Exactly, exactly.
We can word it in a way that says, you know, Cascade Locks has a vision for the future, and you're growing sustainably, and you've got this plan, and what an exciting time to be here. Right, so we'll word it like
Well, the fact is, Gordon has moved all of our projects way down the road. So it's not like they're coming into a project that's just getting started. He's got them, we've completed one, we're ready to start doing the second one. And the third one, but it's already moved quite a ways down the road on it. So it's not like they're coming in and having to start up the, you know, saying, this is what we want you to do, is do these things. We've moved a long ways in all of those projects.
And I think that just
Yeah.
shows that you're planning and have a vision. So, we'll work on that.
Your Honor, I see on minimum qualifications, I don't read part here that says the ability to do grant writing. Is that just normal that they would be able to do that, or do we need to include that?
Is that a qualification that council?
I would think so, because there's a lot of grants coming down the road in the near future because of infrastructure bills that have come out, and having a administrator that can do grant writing would be a bonus.
So I would ask Gordon on that. Didn't we use a number of agencies to help us with some of the, what you were really good at, you knew he knew what the grants were.
Yeah.
He knew what was out there. He didn't necessarily have to write them. He knew what was available. And I think you
We use Stan Foster as a planning consultant for a lot of grant writing. They have a grant writing arm out of park resources. But most of the time, if you can put together a well-worded letter, 300 words or less, that will get the agencies to come to you and say, okay, we're interested in sponsoring this, and let's put an application together. And then you use your engineers. Please tell me what the description is of this thing, because we've done the planning, the wastewater facilities plan, which we turned into the project. We did the water system, water planning for the short term, 20 years out, water master plan. And those things can be turned into a grant. So there's a lot of resources that a person in my position can use to put together information that the agencies already have. Here's the format, just to fill in the blanks.
So it's the ability to seek and manage grants as opposed to just grant writing.
Right.
So we'll get some.
Okay.
and I don't know how you can find that. I mean, Gordon is an excellent writer. I mean, excellent. When he 300 words or less, whatever it is, he nails it. So, and I don't know how you get that in there, whether you can learn that from, or glean that from who but he was really good at being able to write the letters we needed to people to receive things. I mean, he got the point across quickly and right on the money. So, yeah,
We'll get a paragraph in there about grant writing.
Okay.
And you will get an indication in their letter of introduction or letter of application that it's required to be sent. You can see what their writing style is.
Okay. I'm moving on. Now, we're in minimum qualifications. Is there anything else in the minimum qualifications that needs to be included? Experience.
Do you want a hard line for the experience, or are you okay with looking for equivalent experience?
I'm okay but broaden our horizons, open it up a little bit. So because we're such a small town, it is hard to get somebody in who, maybe they want, they're towards retirement or something. That might be different, but I think in order to attract more applicants, broaden it a little bit.
So 5 years of experience or equivalent. And then you get to decide as you're screening,
Right.
whether or not
It's
you may have someone who has a lot of experience in one area, say grant writing.
Right.
And not as much, city administrator experience, but their grant writing experience outweighs that. But then that's something that you get to decide through the process,
Right.
how important that is.
And I always think everyone has to start somewhere. You don't start out as a city administrator. Maybe they started out something else. It could be amazing and great.
I'm a recovering attorney.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, well, I want to rewrite that something we support America for. Is what I've heard, is you don't have a hard minimum. I think they need public service, so
Mhm.
somebody who's worked in a municipality, city, county, or
Yes.
something, and they probably need solid work there, so a year, 2 years kind of minimum in public service. Does that
Right.
sound okay? Okay. And then, I think Gordon and I'll wordsmith it, some, that's okay with you, Gordon. I'm getting wordsmith now. Compensation, I think we've discussed that, pretty much at this point. And then the process, positions open until May 2nd, we discussed that. Make the offer of employment contingent on a background check. That's really important. Any other comments on the flyer? Yes.
Okay, I had a question on the back, on vacation, is it accrual based on years of service? I know a lot of times in job interviews, that's one of the questions I ask, what does my vacation look like? And so, does that need to be clearer, or?
What we've done in the past is the first year here, you get 40 hours, but you don't get to take it. Yeah, you've been here a year, you accrue, and then you accrue 80 hours, years 2 to 5, 120 hours, years 6 to 10, 160 hours, 10 to 15, and 200 hours, 15 beyond. Now, if they come in with experience, then you have the opportunity to say, you've been doing this for 5 years, we'll give you 5 years credit, we'll place you on this place
Okay,
on the accrual schedule.
okay,
But that's typically what happens.
okay.
And typically, those aren't questions that make somebody not go.
Right.
Go. Those are the ones that'll call me up and go, hey, what's the vacation schedule there?
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to add a perk. So.
I would just say that if you're here, you're on vacation. Okay. Cascade Lodge, we got Salem, we got Blanket, we got
Answer.
we got everything, everybody goes to vacation for.
Can I write that?
I like that.
You can write it.
We're in the heart of vacation.
Okay, so we got through the flyer. Generally, I ask for a supplemental questionnaire, once again, just to see if the candidate can put together, I ask for no more than a page and 3 questions and 3 fairly nondescript questions that aren't intimidating. Questions, do you have anything that you would like to have in that written questionnaire? Supplemental questionnaire, you call it, anything.
You might want to ask them about their electrical utility experience, if any. Because that was my biggest learning curve when I came here, because I didn't know anything about it.
Well, and they're coming into one that still has issues
Yeah,
to be worked on. So, yeah.
that would just be,
Yeah.
you can find somebody with experience, like maybe running an electric utility now wants to shift to the city. That might be a good candidate. And if they don't have that experience, it doesn't exclude them, it's just, it would be nice to know. If you've run a utility.
And ask them to explain how they would get that experience to be able to manage an electric utility. Any other burning questions that you'd like to go as part of the supplemental question? I usually ask, you know, how does the city of Cascade Locks meet your personal and professional goals? You know, that's always a nice one.
Gives you a little insight into why you're interested.
Yeah. I'll get those questions. I've got half a dozen of them that I have on the shelf, so I'll send those and Gordon and I will once again get through that. So we got 3 questions going out. So we've talked, you've got the ad, and the ad you'd like reworded to get rid of the 5-year requirement, and I have to look at the ad again, but we're gonna rework that comment.
The requirement of they must be a city administrator or manager experience that. Maybe just like the example, 5 years of or upper level local government management experiences.
Yeah.
Ross,
Yes.
I would like to ask in hiring why they left the last place of employment. I feel like that's often insightful and it's actually something other people would find helpful. Might give us a little idea of why they're on the job.
You know, I like that as a question you would get to ask when they come in for an interview, and maybe not right away saying, gee, why are you quitting? You know, I'm not sure I'd like that in the supplement. Maybe you could say that for in-person interviews.
I asked the same question.
Yeah,
Tell me about your last job.
Yeah.
good question. But,
Yeah.
you know, there's probably
I think that's a really good point. You don't necessarily want to.
Right.
there's better times to ask.
Yeah.
questions.
But, you know, in my experience on these things here is sometimes they leave because they've had a council that wasn't working well with them. Maybe didn't have a vision that they had. And it may appear they left on bad terms, but they very well may have been a really good administrator. But they had a council that just couldn't get it. And there are councils that sometimes have problems. So it's important that when they come, because you can get somebody, I've seen really good administrators come in here and go really quick. If the councils don't have a good vision and be able to do something ahead, so it's not about the administrator. It's not about the man. I got no power, administrator hasn't got any power. None of you have any power as a single person. Your power comes from being able to get 4 people. You gotta get 4 people together to be able to have a vision and move something ahead. And an administrator feel good about where you're trying to go and get on board with that and move. If you can't do that, you're gonna lose your administrator. You may have a great one and lose them really quick. Or if it's them having that feeling. So again, you could have somebody that comes in here with, it appears to have a bad track record, but there may be other things, there may be another side of the story. That's all I'm saying. With you may not get as accurate information or helpful information as you may feel you need to get from it.
Which is why city managers last an average of about 3 years, because councils are on a 4-year cycle.
Yeah, they do. But how long are you here, Gordon?
9.5 years.
9.5 years. And I would say Gordon was here the 9.5 years because he had a council that understood his vision. He understood their vision, and they moved ahead. And I think Cascade lost to move ahead. And it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with four citizens being able to get together and be able to move things ahead, not get bogged down in the 3 against 2 or 2-1, 1-1, whatever. It moved ahead, and so he was able to perform the skills that he was able to give to us, and he stayed here that long because of it. And you just heard these things can average a few years, right? And I guarantee it happens because of the relationship between council And it's not always council's problem, it could be a problem with the administrator. But a lot of times they move because they get friction between their visions and trying to get those. It's all about 4 votes. You get 4 votes together, an administrator can do anything with, move ahead with anything. And Gordon did. Cascade Lots has moved ahead. And I think that we're out there in the world of administrators and managers, a community that people look at, and what this council has done in the past 9, 10 years of moving this community ahead. And that's not to say we still don't have a whole bunch of issues, tough issues, but they were constantly trying to move it ahead. And I frankly believe we got a council here that can do that. Like, that's the name of the game. If you are committed to the citizens of this community and this community, I believe you are, then when you get an administrator here, it's gonna go well for you. But there's no guarantee. So no guarantee on it.
Kind of back to moving forward, you've talked quite a bit about it, but what do you want to see in your next city administrator? Do you want to clone Gordon? Do you want somebody that's got more electrical information? Somebody who wants to create something different that you guys are thinking about? What are you guys looking for?
I think Pete had a good point on, because we're growing pretty fast now for a small town. You know, we're getting how many new phones? 51. So, I mean, that's big for us. And so somebody who has the ability to move those visions along, and always I'm a big fan of good communication, working collaboratively with all departments, the port, work collaboratively with them. Good communication is like one of the #1 things. Good community member.
One of the issues that we haven't been able to crack here, and it may be a very difficult one to crack, but is traffic created from the growth, the parking, flow of traffic. We only got one street through town, that's it. And there's no stop signs along it, there's no, the street lights along, so trying to get out of the traffic, and trying to find, and very limited parking. I think that's gonna be a huge issue, for this council, because the growth is, and is going more.
So are you looking for someone with transportation experience, transportation planning experience?
That's my opinion.
That's a bonus.
My opinion is that is gonna be, that was a big issue for us, and we never really cracked it. I mean, I think we helped it along, but we never, it still has problems, there's still things that need to be worked out.
I think another problem that we have is code enforcement. It might be that it was too big of a plate for just Gordon to handle, and we need to hire a part-time code enforcement officer or something. But code enforcement is something we really need to get on.
Public safety and.
Right.
I think,
Could I make a suggestion on that? I don't know if Gordon would be in agreement with it, but just being creative. Hey, the Port of Cascade Lots has a security office.
Yeah.
So they're paying for the person into the parking, but he doesn't just do the parking, he goes out to the industrial park, he goes up on their parking lot, up here on the trail. So anything that's port property, he's moving through it, and they have him working different hours. Will there be a chance where we could collaborate with the port, with their security person? And I understand they maybe want to pick up the cycle. Is there a chance of us having a conversation with them on how that security could be used between the two areas, save us a ton of money and help them out too?
Yeah, I've had that conversation with Jess, and I think that is something that we need to put on our agenda and talk about. as far as, maybe utilizing the security officer for some of our code enforcement.
So, I got somebody with vision for security would be a bonus, I guess.
We're kind of in this awkward stage, we're not big enough to have a police department, we're big enough, we have problems. Yeah, so that's, I think, somewhat unique.
Okay.
We also have a new finance director that we're gonna be bringing in. So to back to Kathy's point about the developing of direct reports and I think that's something that.
And I'm not sure if it would be of interest or help, but last summer we had a picnic and there was about 100, we did a survey of everybody. And so that survey, it's still online, isn't it? Is it still online?
I don't know. I know.
But it's kind of a good insight to what the community is looking for and.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Is it?
Excuse
Do
me.
you have any input on the board? Or do you think something like that has potential? I mean, you have the experience in town.
That's a great question, and I think I have to look at the authority and have to look at what we have to do. We don't have a lot of code enforcement problems, but I don't know what particular codes you're looking at. And there's a lot that we can't do, we can't touch, but we've actually done pretty well with getting cars moved. And the other codes are like the building codes or planning zoning codes. That could use some attention, but it's not gonna take that much of a, maybe 10 hours a week, and we could work cooperatively. It's just how do you make sure you have oversight through two different government organizations, one person or two people, and that makes it difficult. But
Which gets back to your comment on communication with the court,
Right.
being able to work with
Right.
intergovernmental.
yeah, sometimes there's a lot of code to enforce, sometimes there's nothing going on.
So, what are your expectations 6 months for this person? I get that question a lot of times when I interview candidates. What do they want me to do in the first 6 months? But, guys got any highlights or anything that comes to mind?
Get a police department, get no.
Oh.
Kidding. Long term.
Yeah, complete the wastewater project. It has to be done by December 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, that's only $8 million.
That's gonna be full court press right there.
And
Is it doable by December 1st?
yes, it is, depending upon supply chain issues. That could just kill us out of water, but we're having a pre-construction meeting on Wednesday, so we're keeping that off. Yeah.
Anything else going on in the next 6 months? I mean, obviously get to know staff, get to know council, get to know the community, get to know how Cascade Rocks works.
And that
Which
takes
we are,
time.
our goals that we approved last time in front of us.
Okay.
Yep.
How about in-state versus nationwide? You guys have any heartburn if somebody comes from Mississippi or New York or?
Oh, New York might be bad.
Upstate New York.
May I just say nationwide?
I'm open to it, I don't.
And you don't have to make the decision right now, but you might consider, if you do get somebody that looks like a promising candidate, how do you talk to them? You know, bring him or her out here and pay for them to come, which is always something the council has had a little bit of conversation about. Don't have to decide right now. Okay, so we will go out nationally. Any other comments on what you're looking for out of the next city administrator?
I think our quiet zone is also on the kind of a hot topic that we're trying to move forward. It's been challenging.
What did you say?
Getting a quiet zone established.
Oh, quiet zone.
How long have you been working on that?
How long has that been going?
9 years.
Yeah, I thought so.
Kill with the rumors.
Yeah, now that's interesting. That's a career-long project.
I know.
Well, that kind of gets me to the end of what I'm looking forward to get the flyer finished up, the documents finished up and ready to get it out. Obviously, other questions and comments will come up. We talked about market competition. For our next meeting, your process for selection, once again, you don't have to decide that tonight, but you want to have committees, you want to just do it yourself, you want to involve the public, or your constituents, kind of think about that. Interviews, I'm assuming you guys want them in person at this point, COVID is behind us, or at least I'm hoping. My fingers are crossed and I'm not on wood. And who you'd like to involve, staff, community, other stakeholders, other municipalities, maybe somebody from the river, somebody from the county, somebody from Sandy, I don't know, but you guys should think about that. And then making the offer who should do that. You guys obviously have the city attorney. Who's your city?
Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, the guy from. Okay. Brenda, any other comments, anything I've missed along the way?
No, but as we move through this process, if something doesn't feel right or you need something additional, you can always change during the process. And anytime you have any questions, he's available to answer any questions.
Yes.
From someone that's relocated, usually what the company did for me was that the first was an interview over the phone before Zoom.
Sure.
I'm old. And so, like if someone's interested in New York, we're not expecting them to fly out here, are we, on the very first interview, or?
Well, if they're from New York, keep in mind, I'm gonna have to talk to them on the phone.
Okay.
You will have some information. I'll do an internet look at their nice
Okay.
job, and you'll have some more information about them. But then it would be kind of up to you. How do you want to talk to them? Do you want to get them on the phone and Skype them in or something, or do
Okay.
you want them to be? And if one of you be pay some lodging and an airline bill.
You'll want to decide that, then let's just say you have 6 candidates and they're all from out of state. That's going to be very expensive. And so you'll probably want to do, everyone's used to a virtual meeting now. But let's just say you have 3 candidates from out of state and 3 candidates from in-state. You'll have to decide whether or not you want to bring in those 3 out-of-state candidates to interview in person. But we would recommend that you treat all of them the same. So if you're going to interview the 3 out-of-state candidates via Zoom, you should interview the 3 in-state candidates via Zoom too, so everyone's on the same playing field. But that you can decide once you get the candidates and you know who you're going to. So you don't need to decide that right now.
So if we're gonna do this first round of interviews via Zoom, would we be doing that in here? Can we do anything about expediting or looking at the hardware and the lag issues? I feel like it has to be a real roadblock or barrier that might make the interview process more awkward than it already is.
Well, if it's just us versus the one camera, that wouldn't be a big deal. If you had multiple people on the Zoom call, then that's where the lag issue.
Seems like I've only been on, I think, 3 calls via Zoom, but they all seem like there was quite a bit of lag on them. So I don't understand what you mean by, if we're not interviewing a panel, we're doing one candidate.
One candidate, so it would just be the normal screen and one other screen. The lag is because we're running through our servers.
The software is doing a bunch of work for all the people that come in, it's only doing one software, not working hard.
Basically, you're saying you don't think it'll be an issue.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm good.
And then if you decide it's an issue, you all stay home, and we all zoom in, so that we're all just on the regular Zoom meeting and not this kind of hybrid that we do here. You can do it that way too. But, you know, let's get candidates.
Yeah, let's see where May 9th takes us.
That's good.
I have a
Yes.
question. When do you check references? Where is that in the process?
So I've heard, you may know this already, being a recovering lawyer, but I've heard that doing a full background check, like me sitting down on my computer and seeing Bob Smith from Arkansas, you know, can have some litigation issues.
You want to wait till the very end when you are thinking about making an offer.
Okay.
And that's what COG does for us.
So no Googling them before you interview them, none of that. That's considered background as well.
Can't look at their Facebook.
No,
Nope.
you shouldn't.
What you do at home.
Yeah.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments? So we're back to the issue. Gordon and I are gonna make some changes to the flyer and to the ad. How would you like to approve them? Do you want to approve them as a full council through some sort of special meeting, or do you want to have a subcommittee that can approve that so we can move on? How would you like to do it?
The subcommittee makes sense to me.
Okay. It's pretty common practice, but it's up to you guys.
Do you want to put that committee together right now?
Like, that would make me feel
You want that
better.
together right now? How many you want on it?
I have less than four.
Listen,
Yeah, I agree with them.
I'm not gonna be around that long. You guys are gonna be around that long, right? And so let's get, three from out here. I can,
Catherine's one.
I'll jump in there.
One more?
Well, you're gonna have Gordon working with you.
Okay, sorry.
And it's gonna be electronic. We'll do
Okay.
we won't have to be, we'll just have to shoot it out to you.
Perfect.
so, what you need, right?
Got it.
Okay,
And when would the subcommittee meet?
You won't, we'll send you out the adjusted material via email.
Oh, okay.
And then if you have a comment, send it back to the group. And if you don't, send back to the group, this was good.
Okay.
That way we can do that relatively quickly.
And we can get this thing opened up prior to.
and just a comment too from experience. Sometimes you go through this entire process and you get the absolute best when you get to the end of the game and you've got, man, we nailed it. And when you go give them the offer, they go, sorry, I'm going somewhere else. So plan on, so make sure that when you're looking at all the applicants, you got a good feel for all the applicants. So the one you may want may not, and it'd be right at the last minute, they go, hey, because there are a lot of them are looking, we aren't the only ones they're looking for. They're looking for a bunch of jobs. And if the right one comes up for them, even at the last minute, they're off to that job. So just, again, get a really good feel for everybody out here, because you may not line up for one. They hopefully do, but it doesn't always happen.
So can I clarify something? The subcommittee is like making sure the ad, if there's any changes on this, they'll decide that and all that. They're not gonna do the interview process.
No.
I just want, okay.
Just little things.
I just wanna make sure because we just had this discussion 2 weeks ago.
No, we're a little stuff.
Okay,
Good question.
yeah, it is, especially I got in trouble 2 weeks ago because of it.
Okay, so we're ready to move ahead with this then?
Moving right ahead.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Coming all the way up.
You mind if we go ahead and take off?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Nice meeting you guys.
You
get it back over the mountains.
That's fine.
Oh, it's like-
They're gonna write a book about this.
Graphic novels.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, city administration.
Well, thank you. For your information, the Hood River County Commission did the redistricting and picked option 4, which switches up with the Upper Valley. That's what they chose to do. That is effective with the main primary election. Finance director, I made the offer to Mr. Andrews.
It used to be on the west side.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, now we're with the
Okay.
south side.
Okay.
We get Les Perkins as our commissioner now.
He's currently serving for that district. Yeah. I did make an offer to Mr. Andrews. He is working through some issues with his family at the moment and it's not giving me a yay or a nay. We hope, because he's so qualified, the trainings for him would be much shorter. So we're willing to wait a little while to get his answer. Again, like city administrators and city managers, the White Salmon is looking for a finance director. The county is looking for a finance director, assistant city manager, or county manager. They're all over. So I think he's going to give us a fair shot. I just don't have an answer at this point. The port has asked for a letter of support for the Bridge of the Gods funding request, the infrastructure dollars that are coming out through the federal process. The port is looking for a letter of support for, it could be a $20 million grant to work on the maintenance and the repair of the bridge. And normally just letters of support, like the mayor said, I would just whip something out and send it on to the agency that's doing the funding. But because they don't know exactly what the nature of the support will be, Mark Johnson, the port's governmental relations manager, is working on that. He will give me some more information about it, take your permission to be able to write. If it doesn't require significant management or funding from the city, to go ahead and write a letter of support, because that bridge is vital to our interests and economy. Is that okay with you guys?
We good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Also, Northwest River Partners is interested in talking to us, not talking to us, but we are members of the Oregon Municipal Electric Utility. We're the second smallest municipal electric utility in the state. Drain is the smallest. Anyway, but several key legislators and governors have called for the removal of the lower Snake River dams for fish passage. The lower Snake River dams provide about 560 megawatts of power to the northwest. If those dams are breached, then that power has to be replaced. That is not a simple thing to do. They're talking about the renewable resources and solar battery storage to replace it. If the 4 dams are breached and they put in this process or this project to replace that time, it's going to raise the BPA rates about 50%, which would mean our rates would have to go up about 32%. So a typical household would go from $110 to $145 a month just for basic electricity. The Northwest River Partners is fighting this because it doesn't make sense to breach these dams, to take away that power that we already have when you can do fish ladders and other fish passage techniques. Governor Inslee from Washington is in favor of it because he thinks that by allowing the fish to come down the river and go up the river and go down the river easily, then the orcas in the Puget Sound will have more to eat. Well, the orcas in the Puget Sound don't come down the Holy River to eat. So I'm a little biased, I'm sorry. But what they're asking for is money to fight this legislative. And what they're asking for is 5 times our annual dues. Our annual dues to the Northwest River Park is $1,700, which means 5 times that's $8,500. We didn't earmark $8,500 for this. We don't have to send them anything. We should maybe send them something if you want to. But this is a serious question for our ratepayers, that if BPA power costs go up, our costs go up because we get 100% of our power. You want more information? You want me to put together a white paper? Or how do you want to approach this? You just want, we don't have to send them any money. They're going to be doing whatever they're going to do anyway. Their donations have run between $10,000 and $600,000. The $600,000 come from places like Seattle Power, the big people that get their power from BPA. It is a concern. I'm very concerned about replacing that power and taking the Lower Snake River Dam down. It just doesn't make sense to me, particularly when it's 560 megawatts. That is 100 times the size of power that we use would be gone if they breached those dams.
Can we submit something like a summary, like what you just said, as contribute a letter of some sort representing the town being against this?
I can do that. The River Partners knows we are.
Right, but maybe they need it in writing to present while they go up and do their case.
I can ask them. I think that they're more interested in money
In the
because they're
money,
trying
I
to
know.
pay their recovering attorneys that are working for them.
It is a big battle.
It is a huge battle.
My brother-in-law, he's a dam engineer up in the food chain, and boy, it's a whole political mess.
It is,
It's a mess.
Governor or Senator from Idaho, I'm sorry, I've forgotten which one it is, put this like $3 billion package together to take out the dams and replace it with.
It won't address flooding.
My question is, what are $8,500 donation make a difference?
No.
So that seems like a lot of money that our city could use.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So I understand it's got a big impact on our community and citizens, but if it doesn't make a difference, I say keep the money.
Okay,
This still give a support letter. Is that right? Is there a support letter?
I can send them a letter that says, we really would like to contribute to this, but we're a small utility. We don't have this money budgeted. to do that. You have our moral support. I can write them a letter.
And the 1,700 or whatever.
Well, they get the 1,700 anyway.
Right.
For the dues.
Right.
So we're members.
Right.
Are we okay with moral support? I consider very well maybe people in here that want the dams down too. That's all. Are we okay with the moral support?
Okay,
Sounds that way.
all right, thank you. What else do I put on here? Oh, rainfall. We just experienced one of the driest Februarys we've ever had. Just under 4 inches of rain in the entire month of February. It's the lowest amount we've had in 13 years. I think there was 0.49 inches back in like 1847 or something. But already this year, or this month of March, we've already had over 4 inches of rain. So our last the calendar year, we were at 97% of normal. We ended at 74 inches of rain. And the normal is about 76 inches of rain here. So Brenda, if you want rain, this is the place to come to.
I love it.
This year, however, we are projected to be about 59 or 60% because February was 7 inches below the average. We'll keep a watch on it, but this is just for your information and let you know that last year was good. This year it's not starting off too well. And also for your information, if you're going to drive down the historic highway between May 24th and September 5th, you will need a permit. Cost you maybe $2 plus handling fee.
Just sure there before 9 or after 6.
No, before 9 or after 6. But
Early.
yeah, the West or Butch, the port newsletter said $5.
Yeah.
I got this off the web. website of ODOT, so.
Oh, okay.
I think it's $2, but there's a processing fee, which is probably $2.95. But that's just that information. Council meetings are broadcast on Zoom and like and share it on Facebook. We are up to 941 share likes.
Wow.
A lot of likes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mayor and the city council comments. We'll start here and more on.
All right, first of all, welcome back.
Oh, yeah.
We're happy to have you. And thank you to the city for putting this together. Thank you, Brenda, right, and Ross. Yeah, right. Thank you so much for coming and helping us with this project. It's a big one for us, so we're happy to have you. And thank you for presenting the book too. I looked at the book, I'm like, yes, thank you very much.
Gordon, so the gentleman hasn't given an accepted or declined, so what are the other people that applied? Have they been given no's? Are they being
Yes,
strung along?
they've already been sent letters that, because none of them were qualified.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Okay.
Yeah, the three of them didn't have any accounting experience at all. And the only though as a finance director wouldn't work.
Okay. I was wondering if we could possibly get some pricing on some neighborhood watch signs. A resident brought that to my attention, thinking that maybe our crime might get declined if someone sees the neighborhood watch signs up. I know there's one over by the school that I walk by when I go on my walks. That's half there. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're orange.
Yeah,
Orange and black.
that is from the Neighborhood Watch Association, and we don't have any neighborhood watches in town. So
Well, other people don't need to know that.
You can probably buy some on Amazon.
Yeah.
um,
Well, neighbors are watching. I mean, it doesn't have to be a formal group, does it? Or maybe it does. I don't know.
well,
Legality.
normally they're structured, the county sheriff has come down and tried to structure, in the last 9 years. There wasn't enough interest to do that. Maybe there is now.
I think there
but,
might be now,
um,
because I'm being approached by residents, so
We just had another theft in our neighborhood, so it's a little trailer.
that's what I was told, yeah.
let me check.
Okay, thank you. And yes, thank you for attending tonight, and we're gonna have to send you back out in the rain now. And that's all I got.
So welcome back to Tome. Thank you guys for coming in and looking forward to reading the book. And what is the process for getting a Parks and Rec back? Because if we had a Parks and Rec back and we put some funding towards that, we've already got a lot of concept tourism. I think we've already got a lot of tourists.
Well, the first thing you have to find is a champion to run it. And then figure out how much they need and then fund it. I did approach the Hood River County Parks and Rec District. They cover all of Hood River County except inside the city limits of Cascade blocks.
I mean, there's probably enough people interested that could do that, and that would
They were formed, they
That would help with the picnic.
deliberately,
That would be nice.
said no to the
Oh,
Cascade
my
blocks.
wife and for.
No, the one here or the
Here,
Hood River
but it
Park?
came through.
Well, there's, the school district has some funds there, but anyway, so I approached them, I said, hey, it's time to come back.
But I used to volunteer for the Parks and Rec here. So I mean, we had one. I don't know what happened to it.
It's funding, lack of funding.
Okay,
Yeah, there was some
It
personal
wasn't
issues.
running well. It wasn't running.
well, I know that.
That was
I
a
remember.
personal little Parks and Rec thing, where we
Right.
did our kickballers, stuff like that.
Okay,
All the supplies for that went to the school district.
okay.
It's just, the problem is getting the personnel. You can fund it relatively cheaply if you got somebody that's dedicated to proposition.
And why is the city of Cascade Locks not a part of the return?
Because at that time, it did not take the city to vote for it, and it wasn't a big money. 10 years ago, we were only at $62 million assessed valuation, and we would have gotten, one penny per thousand, you would have gotten very much money out of the facility, they restricted it. And now their problem is, they can't afford what they have now, and to expand the program. The pool, for example, in the river is,
It's a lot.
yeah, they can't afford to fix it. And so
They asked us to be part of it, I think, and we declined.
that could be.
Yeah, we declined.
So, so when I asked them again, they said, well, actually, we're thinking about expanding, number one, and because of the cost, giving the pool back to the river. But that's, that's a bigger portion of our program than what we have here. We just have maybe youth basketball, basketball, just, they came into the gym and they played.
Yeah.
We had a committee for it too, though.
Some craft days and
Yeah.
then they got busted they paid like 25 cents or something and got busted the pool.
What my wife ran was community education.
That-
Mike
that-
Shannon ran that. And they did a lot of programs down here that were recreational type of
Yeah, but that was from the school,
programs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not the parks.
that wasn't Parks and Rec. And they asked us to be part of it, and we declined. So we're gonna, because we looked at it back in the day, we looked at Hood River didn't support us. We were gonna give them the money, and our kids weren't gonna get any benefit from that. They'd all get used in Hood River because there was this belief that that's what happened.
That would be a good thing for the next person filling this position.
That's it.
Experience with Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I've been asked about Dry Creek again, and I keep telling them that I'm bringing it up at council. I even invited them to come to city council to talk about their concerns and frustration.
The engineering is 80% completed. We have a couple of questions that we're working on right now, and we've had one of the residents say, you're not gonna replace my line. So we went through all this work, and now they don't want what we're offering. So we're working through those kinds of issues. We got an email from the engineer today with like 6 questions that we have. So Sheldon and I will be working through that.
Okay, because they keep asking, and I just finally tell them to come to council.
Yeah, we're gonna get done this spring.
Okay. And then thanks to Bonnie for the book and everything, and Brenda and Ross. I'm sure you guys will do an awesome job. And thank you, Tom, for accepting the offer to come back as an intern here. And I want to remind the citizens of Cascade Locks that the box is here at City Hall to join in the 30th annual citywide garage sale event. It will be April 22nd through the 24th, 9 to 5. It's a $6 fee, and I get all of your advertising, a flag in your yard and a map. And a great community event. Everybody kind of goes around and visits and meets people and stuff. Last year we had over 30 cells that actually got on the map. So that box is at City Hall, and it will leave City Hall. The deadline is April 15th. So if you're not got it in by April 15th, you cannot be on the map and stuff, because we have to allow time for the maps to be printed and made and so forth. And then thanks for the staff for getting the packets together and stuff.
It was a big packet this time.
Yeah.
April 21st and 22nd.
What, 22nd through 24th?
Oh, it's 22nd through the 24th.
Yeah.
Okay,
Friday, Saturday.
because I'm in that leadership conference on the 21st and 22nd. So, I think something take over for one day. Thank you, staff, for all their work and the materials that they provide for us. Welcome back, Tom. I'm glad that you're here. I think we have a lot to learn from you. Bonnie, thank you for presenting this book to us. Sitting here through our fire was not an enjoyable experience, so this book, I'm sure will bring back some memories. Ross and Brenda, thank you for your presentation. It was well worthwhile for us to listen to you. And Les Perkins, I work with him on the Energy Council. And I think he is somebody in commissioners that we can do business with and try to get something out from the county. So I will, since I do have a relationship with him there in the Energy Council, I'm going to be working on it.
Do you know how long his term goes?
Uh,
Do you know how long his term goes?
oh, he's got a couple more years.
All right, go get him, Butch.
I'm gonna see what sort of money I can drag out of him for us.
Well, I think first and foremost, just want to say thank you, Tom, for coming back and being a part of this. Bonnie, thank you for your presentation and your chauffeur, and also Richard driving me out here. Ross is Brenda, trip out here from but really it's a big deal for us to
Yeah.
be kind of a lower position, and I felt like our conversation was a lot, it was very productive, and yes, it's very good questions. That was great. I also want to say a big thanks to everybody involved in the spring cleanup. I know that that's coming up, and there's a lot of people involved with that. I just think that's I've never been in a meeting before to do something like that, so this is thanks to that. And it dovetails perfectly with the garage sale. So.
And it was the week after, so anything you don't get rid of at the garage
We
sale.
got the dumpster day. I definitely think that, I'm glad that we got the cameras on there. It's one of our goals to research that for this coming year. I think public safety is something that's a top priority, especially as we've had, seems like every city council meeting, we're talking about another theft. So just really want to keep moving that forward. And Julie, thanks for bringing up the parks issue. That's something that I've been thinking about as well. It'd be nice if our community had something that would bring people here in the wintertime. We have a lot of visitors that are here in the summer, but we don't have a lot of tourists in the winter. And I think that one thing that's kind of lacking in the community is we don't have a lot of parks. We've got the everything down to the port, but other than that, there isn't a lot here. And I think that that's something that I don't know where that fits into the plan for the city, setting aside some spaces that are green spaces. I think is really important.
You get it?
That's it.
All right, well, thanks for bringing it back. And I feel good about it, because I served with, what I believe is a really good council, administration, good council, really good, and we've got a really good staff. So, I feel good, I feel really good about it. Because my whole thing is, I grew up here in Cascade lots, and, for me, I got no other agenda than what's good for Cascade lots. And so now my whole push is to try to get, 4 people to get together on a consensus of where the city's heading, get a feel for what that consensus is. And you put together, an outline of a plan where you all want to go with things. I'm following that plan. I'm not bringing something else I'm taking your lead on this, and I'm just trying to help you be able to get that consensus together with your administrator. But, thank you for the presentation, everyone that we had this evening. I know one of your goals is security. I've already been called before I was in sworn and mentioned about what are you talking about?
Neighborhood watch.
Neighborhood watch. Try to get neighborhood watch going again. So we can bring people in here. Did you get would you like to have the sheriff come down and talk to us?
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We'll get the sheriff. We've got a great sheriff, and the sheriff will do whatever they can for it. There's only so much they can do, but they have knowledge. And on the neighborhood watch side, he can come down and help you figure out how that goes. He can tell you how things are going countywide. Park County, and he can give you an idea what's going on here. I've talked to the deputy, and it's personal property type things, these big things. And from what I hear from people is because of COVID, they can't keep people in jail. So in personal property type things, they get a slap in the hand right back out there. So if they're stealing your car, they're stealing your caliber, they're coming right back at you. Now that, I assume will start changing here down the road, but that is what you're stuck with. So in my mind, doing the things you're talking about, the things we can do low key here in our town, like in the watch time, not just do the watch time, let's see if we can organize something with the city behind it. I had a question about somebody building all street lights driving down, so I've been going around at night and looking at all the street lights. There are a lot of street lights in this town. And I found basically four, two going down the port, two in a couple other places. But what I would suggest is the poles have numbers on. So if you're in a place where you gotta light out, and these guys working in the day, they're gonna see these things out all the time. Get your pole number and I would suggest in the newsletter, maybe let them know so that the city can be informed. You gotta light out, get your pole number, and then the guys can get out and correct that, because that is part of your security. Light is part of it. That is what the city can do. That's free lights out. Let's keep them running. And from looking around at it, they're doing a pretty good job. I saw only two in residential areas that were out. I just pulled up. But that's not bad for our community. But other things you can do, you guys talk about cameras. I think it's a great idea to strategically put cameras on certain streets where maybe you're not gonna be right at the house, but you're gonna see the vehicle because they may know the time when something happened. You go back to the camera and see something coming by. It's gotta help a little bit. I mean, and try to promote citizens to get their double alarm, whatever we do as a council to help push people towards that. Going around, I saw areas in the town that I thought were pretty well lit, and there were areas that weren't so well lit. So part of that too, maybe through newsletters and that, the citizens try to come up with a way where they motion lights, that can help themselves. And anything you can do to help yourself on it at a minimum. Because I believe that, I don't know how much things have changed since I've been here, but we get a deputy for 24 hours a week. And that costs us over $100,000. So if we want to get another deputy, you need to come up with more than $100,000, and that's going to get you. All it's going to get you is 24 hours in an entire week, 24 hours. And but it doesn't mean they aren't helpful. The deputies that come down here, every deputy our sheriff sent to us, the sheriff takes the time to find the deputy he believes will work well in Cascade Lock, and he has sent us some really good deputies. So they come down, they get involved, and you may not see them, but they do. They get involved, and they do want to be part of it. They do want to be part of the helping these things go on. But the deputy can't be at all things that are going on. So cameras, the neighborhood watch. We have a gentleman here in town that I see comes down to the park all the time, and I see him. I don't want to say the name, but just to throw out that he's already driving around town, and he drives around town to get around it. It's just his thing. The potential maybe to pay for his gas costs. Not to get him to go after people. But if he sees something, he can ride it down, drive down, get his deputy, but maybe pay for the guy's gas and give him an incentive, more incentive. He doesn't really know already, but give him more incentive to go more places in town and just see suspicious things. You know, a lot of times you pick up something that's suspicious that helps you down the road. Somebody can pass something along to you.
I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about because him and I traded notes on stuff over when I was out of
That's
work.
what he does too, though. He
Yeah,
keeps an eye on things,
and I
right?
think we both got scanners and.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm throwing that
that's a
out
good
there,
idea.
maybe, anything we can do, low cost stuff is, we're gonna tell you, we don't have money, and we don't. We've done a lot of money out here for a lot of things, including, I love recreation. I would hope we would push towards some recreation stuff, but you gotta find, that all got cut out of there, and now you gotta find it again. Another thing I want to bring up too, because I was just at alumni. I mean, and we have, Cascade no longer has a high school. I grew up here, went to K through 12 here, and it was a great community, and the high school and the school is what helped make it a great community. Everybody's involved in the school, something's always going on, and now that, so we still have a whole lot of alumni that are very supportive of this community, who live here, they're from all over, but they're very supportive. One of the things that they do, they put on a dinner during Labor Day weekend. And in that dinner, we were getting anywhere from 80 to a little over 100 people. But not just from that dinner, but from donations. The Alumni Association gives scholarships to kids from Cascade Locks. And right now, their scholarship fund is up around $85,000. These are people that don't even have kids in our school, that are trying to raise money to help our students here move on from high school into college. And they give money to ones who have while they're still in it, progressively. So their comment was, they would like to be, the council would push that sort of thing, is to create a community picnic. We used to have a little Founders picnic on Labor Day. But there was a time, it was considerable Founders and community picnic. They were wondering if the council would get behind a community picnic. They would come to that, the community would come to that, and we'd all get to know each other. And we all have an opportunity for everybody, even the ones here that have kids in here, an opportunity to put money towards this scholarship program. So I know we want to get a meet and greet type of thing. So I'm just throwing it out there right now, but I'm in favor of trying to do something like that, if the council would get behind it. And one other thing, when I was first on this council, we'd go till midnight. So anytime I'm under midnight, I'm a happy camper. So I never went to
Did we
midnight.
vote him in?
It's the first one. I never went to midnight. This is the last thing we're gonna do. Do we have the wastewater plan? Did you guys get the book on that? Did you guys ever build on the wastewater system? And there's a book on it. Do we have books so we could? Because the thing of it is there's things that happen. I guarantee you, there's gonna be issues. The more you know about what they're trying to accomplish here and what the system looks like, what it's all about, the better off you're gonna be. So I know this one, I read this whole thing. So if somebody wants this one, grab that one. And if we can get some, if you want any more, get a hold of Gordon, because I do believe in this process. You're gonna find times when they're gonna ask you something, and the more that you know about what they're trying to do there, and the book that has all in it, what the issues were, and what they're trying to accomplish with it. To me, again, knowledge is the key to what you're attempting to do. You got to inform yourself, so. You do that, right? Someone wants another one? I've got one here.
Yeah, I think we have another.
We may be able to go to ask council for council people, they keep. I kept all my paperwork, I got mountains of them. I'll catch on fire.
I would like to tour it. I don't even know where it is.
Well, they are.
There you go.
Well, yeah, you need to do that.
Right.
Could you set that up, Gordon? For Sheldon?
Sure.
Yeah, I think,
I'd love to do that too.
and then, I think it's a really important thing to do. If you had to move it ahead, but this is a big thing you're doing, and this council's gonna do it. This council's gonna push a big project through this community that's gonna shore up our sewer system. I know you're gonna pay, the bill's gonna be 40 years, but I believe that what they did with this, as opposed to, they kind of piecemeal things for 2 years. This one's doing the whole project. I think it'll last more than the 40 years. And then when you have to repair, then it's paid off. That thing's gonna be paid off and then move on. Because I think it'll hold more than 4 years once we do this project. Anyway, here's one here. I'm done and give a report on it because, yeah, the more you know about it, the better it is to it. So, any other business?
You may want to wait. weather's a little better.
But that's fine, however you do it, however you do it.
So we got our budget processes coming up.
Yes, we do.
Would it be, beneficial to have, better idea of is what is all involved in the budget? I know there's some training that we saw come through our email. What are the different departments and like hearing kind of?
You will go through that as we go through the budget.
Okay.
It's all,
Yeah.
we go fund by fund.
You'll see.
But
You'll see.
We're talking about it, you're hearing about paper and things, you're talking about walk the way spend. So that's what I'm asking, is there opportunity to actually meet it?
Yeah, prior to that. No, yeah, well, it's fine, your counselors, you're welcome to come take a tour, just let me know when you want to come. So we can make sure we have personnel to take you around.
So are you asking to meet the engineer? I'm saying too.
Well, there's other departments too. I was thinking,
Water, yeah, Sheldon and, the electric department. Yeah, we can take it, I mean, there's not a lot to see, most of it's underground, but we can show you what we got.
This book does a good job, so do that.
Katie, one of the first book.
Yeah, I'll take it.
It might be on the website.
Yeah, I would have to look.
Read fast, it's a little bit smaller than the budget one you're gonna get.
Yeah. Thank you.
The more information I can put in the budget, the better it is for you guys to understand.
And find out that other business. So I'll open to a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Move to second adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good, knock this out by 8 minutes. Are we ready right now?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.